Hi, how's everyone out there doing? I apologize, but unfortunately, G.E. Moore has not been able to make it. I do want to make sure that we are talking about his amazing book, though, and giving him some time and letting everybody know how you can reach him. And let's talk a little bit about Bealz, the Prince of the Southside. What a great and interesting book. I'm going to put a link to it in the chat, and hopefully GE is able to join us in the next few minutes. But if not, I wanted to make sure that we're still spending this time so you have the link to the book. As well as to his author site, which is gemore at writer.com. And these links are all going to be here in the chat for you so that you can go ahead and take a look at these and just see his amazing work. Unfortunately, when you do have a live event like this, sometimes you can't make it. And I have his amazing book right here. And one of the things I wanted to do is just take a few minutes and do a reading of this book. And so I think readings can be a super, super powerful way. And so this is in chapter 7. And for those of you who have heard my readings before, one of the things I like to do is do the reading fairly early in the book because I don't want there to be any spoilers. So here we go. Bealz, the Prince of the Southside, chapter 7 opening. For most of his 12 years, Bealz had been taught he is nothing special, that he is just like all the other kids in the neighborhood that make up the entirety of his world, and most everyone around him pitched in to the drive home. The point, Ms. Penny let him know he isn't special. The older, meaner foster kids who shuffled endlessly through the apartment, they let him know with harsh words of this. On feet. He isn't special. The teachers at school, the cops around where he lived, the foreigners who own all the essential businesses on his block, and the news announcers who droned on ceaselessly in the background where Miss Penny cleaned up following a raucous night of gambling and drinking. They all at least know he is nothing special. His mother, though, always told him otherwise. She always told him he is special. It was nice to hear, and he really wanted to believe her. But like most kids, at least where he is from, he's had to learn the truth soon enough. There's nothing so special about helping his mom, doped to the gills on psychotropics, get into bed, or checking on Miss Penny's younger brother, Tony Tone, when he goes to bingo, making sure he doesn't pass out with the needle stuck in his arm and bleed out all over the sofa again, nor learning to pace himself on a school night while watching a puking, pooping emergency placement baby, whose name he doesn't even remember, while the grown folks celebrate drunkenly in the next room. Oh, so powerful, so powerful. And I see in the chat that GE is trying to join, and I'm letting him know that we are live and for him to come join us. And I think I can send him an invite. So I'm going to try to do that. And we will see if we can bring him on after that very, very powerful reading from his chapter 7. Such an amazing thing when you can just read an author's words and they come to life and you can feel the power in there. What I'll say is GE Moore and I are in the same time zone. We are on Central Time, but I base this off East Coast time. So it has been a bit of a challenge. And we've had authors here so far from Australia. We've had authors from the UK, from Wales. And so just keeping the time zones in track is a super, super difficult challenge. And so just want to make sure people are aware of that. If you have not tuned into 24 Authors in 12 Hours before, we are an author helping author event. And so going to put into the comments for you our links if you want to support us, if you want to donate, if you want to buy some merch from us. We have all of these things available. And normally I wait till the end to promote it. But now that we've got GE coming in, I want to make sure that we are honoring him and his time. And GE, how are you doing?
I'm awesome. I'm awesome. I'm feeling a little apologies.
No problem. I was just explaining
Thank
to
you.
the audience. And just so you know, I already read the opening scene from chapter 7 of your book.
Yes.
And I talked about just how powerful it was. This is the scene where, and hopefully I just pronounced your main character's name right, Bealz. Is that correct?
Bealz.
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 And
Yes.
Bealz is there. He has found out, he is being talked to by Miss Penny and all these people that he is nothing special.
Yeah. Yes.
And it's a sad, powerful scene. And just wanted to let you know, I wanted to honor you with that. I know that we're both in Central Time, but everything's off East Coast time for the show. So I let the people out here know. But I want to give the rest of your time. And let me just say, it's live, but it's recorded. Take your time. There's no need to rush. We've got time until the next author. But let's talk about you and this extraordinary
Certainly.
powerful
Certainly.
work.
Certainly. Certainly. All right. Let me say I appreciate you extending the invitation to come to show up here today. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And so, what inspired this work?
Well, Bealz was born. The story itself has been around for my son is turning 10, and I think I started writing this when he was maybe 3. So it's been around for a while. Uh, Initially as an idea, of course, and it started as a writing exercise for my then 13-year-old son. I wanted to introduce him to uh, characters and who were operating and functioning in environments that were familiar to him, that he could find some connection or see some relation to himself, and either through himself or through his classmates or his relatives or whatever the case may be. So with that in mind, and of course with my influences, I'm a comic book kid. I grew up reading comic books, and uh, my influences came from a lot of different the sci-fi sources from back in the day. I don't want to age myself right now, but so all of that came together, and I'm a poet, so I'm not used to writing long form prose. So Bealz came out. It was a writing exercise for myself as well. I was writing weekly installments for him to read, and from there it grew into the complete work that you have now.
Wonderful. And it's very powerful. And one of the things about the theme for this month was, looking at dystopian fiction, speculative fiction. And
Yes,
in so many ways, when you read this book, this is dystopian reality for a lot of
absolutely,
people. And do you want
absolutely.
to talk about that at all? Like how this is this environment that you yourself really have just been exposed to, and the people who are in those realities right now?
Yes, yes. Well, specifically, the genre that I write in. Um, and I hesitate to label anything like that, but my work is Afrofuturist themed, and what that means is that it's interpreted through my eyes. It comes from my perception, and that's as an African American, that's unique historically. So the way that I experience and interact with the world, the way that I receive, like I said, the influences that I grew up with, you know, understanding that well-known works of fiction, art, or whatever the case may be, aren't typically centered towards someone of my my background. They're not centered towards me. So I had to grow up learning to enjoy and to find connection with a diversity of influences. And what I write is specifically from my perspective. So we're talking about the communities that are affected by socioeconomic issues. We're talking about just the racial components. We're talking about the economic components. Everything that I've experienced growing up, that I witnessed growing up. My relationship with my community, and it's just reflected in the work. So uh, that dystopian element is a reality, like the children. I'm an educator. I'm a former educator. I was in the classroom for over 20 years, and the dystopian reality that I'm describing, and a lot of times in a fictional aspect, is the reality of some of the children that I was teaching, that were in my classrooms. So to bring those all together, I could see these influences even growing up. It may not be easily recognizable in some of these influences, but like Sesame Street in the 70s was a dystopian reality. That was a dystopian environment, and that was some of my early influences. So that's how I perceive it, and that's how I interpret it in my work.
No, I think it's so powerful. And looking at that kind of environment, I do want to ask you, what inspired you and what would you like your readers to take away from your work?
Well, like I said, my inspirations are, first and foremost, I have to give a lot of credit to my parents, uh, who encouraged us to engage. And then, I one of my I remember just childhood reading project when I was like 6 or 7 was, we had to read through a box of classics. I remember reading like Treasure Island, and Huck Finn, different things that came out of this box that my mom presented to us. So our downtime was reading, and it was exploring with these different elements. Like TV was a big influence for me and my siblings. It was a communal activity. Was watching television together, and I was always drawn towards the more fantastic, the sci-fi programs, the fantasy, and I read a lot of comic books. So I was a big comic book fan, uh, right up into my early 20s, and that really is one of the first things that help to expand my vocabulary. I know that comic books aren't necessarily, especially when I was growing up, they weren't necessarily looked at as serious literature, but that was my first introduction to the larger uh, possibilities of language. So I give credit to my comic book history. My interactions with comic books as a child, with sparking my interest in language, and understanding language, and being able to utilize language in order to express an idea. So a lot of that's from a lot of my influences, and that playtime that I spent, that interaction I spent with my siblings. We watch these programs, and then we go out and we create our own version of these programs in the backyard. So that was a big part of it.
Great. I want to touch base. I put your link in the chat for the comments here for your site. What
Yeah.
else can people find on your site besides this amazing book that you wrote? What else
Oh,
can people find when they look out there?
yeah. Yeah. Well, at this point, brag a little bit. I think I'm a pretty prolific artist. So you can find links to some of my other works. I have a short story collection that I'm quite proud of. The Wayward Home for Retired Superheroes and More Astonishing Tales from the Hood. It's got a really long title, but I love it. I just love it. And
No, I'm actually super intrigued. That is on my to read list.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So it is an eclectic collection of short stories. Again, uh, my writing is Afrofuturist themed. That in no way should be a barrier for entry, because although it is written from that perspective, it is relatable to everyone. So, uh, just in the same way that I grew up and was able to enjoy the grapes of wrath, without ever having to experience any of that. I want my writing to be as accessible as that. So you can find, links to some of my other writing. I have a short story, like I said, my short story collection. I have a poetry collection available. You can find it, and I also have links to some of my artwork and different things, and some of my articles, and there's a little splash of everything on there. So uh, please go check it out.
What's super interesting is an interview right before this was a gentleman from Wales, Richard Rogers, and in so many ways, you guys have so many similarities, different parts around the world, different backgrounds, different cultures, so
Yeah,
much different. At the same time, you're both poets, you're both novelists, and I think that that's one of the things about the world is super fascinating. We do have so much interconnection, and so for somebody who is out there saying, hey, this is probably, I mean, look, I am like a white girl, as white as you get, right? So, and I'm telling you, this is an amazing book that's relatable, that can be inspirational. And so I think that that's one of the beauties of modern writing right now is, it, you could share from all these different backgrounds and different
absolutely,
perspectives and get something
certainly,
out of it.
yes, absolutely. I think that's awesome. I think that is one of the benefits, and there are quite a few benefits of this information age, is that we are able to connect and share our stories with one another.
Yep. I apologize because you don't have a lot of time because we got started a little bit late, but
I understand.
I am going to have to wrap up. And as we do that, what are the last thoughts that you want to leave with the audience right now?
Well, my personal message is that we are living through turbulent times, but now is the time to embrace each other. It's cliche, but now is the time to focus on what matters to us most, and if that's through storytelling, if that's through what we're receiving as readers, as consumers of art and entertainment. That was the perfect time to focus on positivity so that we can all connect and really change the paradigm. And I believe that with enough energy and with enough focus, we can do it.
Thank you so much. And for those of you who are listening later on, once again, this is G.E. Moore. He just has a powerful story. I encourage you to read that. And like I said, his other story, and I'm going to get the name wrong, but the retirement for wayward comic book heroes, that is so on my reading list right now. I cannot
Yeah,
wait to unbury myself. I'm actually looking forward to winter, so I have that time to snuggle up in a blanket and read all that. Thank you so much for your time, and I'm sorry that we're
very
having
cool.
to cut it short.
All right, I understand.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Good days.